Hey, JR.
What's up, Zach?
Can I ask you something?
Of course.
Do you even like Jordan?
Jordan, as in the host of our podcast, Hop Heroes? That Jordan?
Yeah. I mean, I get that he's part of the show and likes to drink beer and talk comics, but he just kind of gets on my nerves. That dude literally thinks Gambit could take Cyclops. Scott fucking Summers. I mean, what kind of imbecile?
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, I'm running late for this promo. I just got a little held up. What'd I miss?
Oh. Hey, bro. You didn't miss anything. Nothing.
All right, everything all right? What's going on?
Nothing. We're talking about the podcast, how we like to drink craft beers and discuss comic book stories and shows.
Yeah, that's all we were talking about.
Wait, JR, did you finally tell Zach that we didn't really like him?
Wait, what the fuck?
Hop Heroes, the show where three best friends bridge the gap between great beer and the comic book universe. Find us on all platforms where you find podcasts.
I honestly don't really like either of you guys, so...
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News. We are a podcast that discusses comic books, movies, TV shows, and we typically have a beer of the week. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to wrap up Phase 4, put a nice little pretty bow on it, and then we're going to look ahead towards Phase 5 and beyond. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania will be kicking off Phase 5, so we're going to bring on one of our resident experts, Sean from MetalcoreNerds. You've heard his name a bunch. He's been on a couple times before. He's going to join us for that portion of the episode later on. But first, if you're new here, we're going to go ahead and talk what we messed up on, what we were drinking, and some news. And if you don't know where to find us, you've stumbled here, Hops Geek News on any podcasting platform. Go ahead. Also on any social media platform. We are everywhere. If you want to support the podcast, hopsgeeknews.threadless.com. You can get some merch. We have some merch out there. Need to update the store here soon. And then also, if you want to, patreon.com/hopsgeeknews. Everything goes into, back to the show. We put everything back to the show. We're hopefully going to get our official website up and running here soon. So that way we can maybe start writing some good reviews and things of that nature. So look out for that. But I am Matt, with me is Lauren. And today I am drinking my last episode without a beer. It's not a morning we're recording this half anyways. So I'm drinking a Starbucks nonetheless. It's one of the vanilla almond shaken espresso drinks because pumpkin season's over and we're back to the dark days of nothing and despair. And I was like, hey, is the pistachio drink any good? And she was like, it leaves like a foamy taste in your mouth. And I was like, that sounds, or like she's described as a film. She's like, it leaves like a film in your mouth. And I was like, that sounds terrible.
If the barista's not selling it, yeah.
I was like, that sounds terrible. So I'll just go ahead and go with this because pumpkin's over. So that's what I'm drinking. It's a wicked. I mean, Starbucks, man. I love Starbucks. And who doesn't like Starbucks? I get it. Dunkin' Donuts isn't.
I was going to say a lot of people.
I get it. And it's expensive.
I love Starbucks. Oh, so overpriced.
It is. It's, it's expensive to be alive these days, but what are you going to do, right? Enjoy the little things in life. Lauren, I'm living vicariously through you. You are drinking a beer. I want to hear about that beer, and I want to hear about your beer adventures in New York City this past weekend.
So let's just say my beer adventures in New York City this past weekend were very fun, but I was envious of you Saturday morning that you were doing dry January. So it could go both ways.
Look at us. We're looking across the aisle, like pointing the finger, like, no, you're living the best life. No, you are.
Let's just say I'm happy I was me Friday night, but I was not happy I was me Saturday morning.
It looked like a good time.
It was a good time. Before going to that, though, I am drinking a Florida beer, Calusa Brewing from Sarasota, Florida, one of my favorite breweries. And it is the Green Lab Experimental Hop Series at 8.5%. It's a hazy double with YCH 303 trial. I don't really know what all that means.
That sounds
it tells you. So it's a combination of concentrated lupulin from our cryo hops processed in phantasm powder that has been blended to create one co-pelleted hop product. So that's why it is so hop filled. Brewer's notes: barley, wheat, oats, cosmic punch yeast, Citra Mosaic, and Simcoe cryo hops, and phantasm powder. An effort to combine the thiol boosting character of cosmic punch yeast with the thiol rich phantasm powder. So it's hoppy. But I went with.
There's a lot going on there. Wow. Well, it's like you were yelling out a Harry Potter spell at me or something. You're reading a chemistry book right now. Like it's got cosmic and
it's Achyolupulin.
I know beer. I know hops. I like beer, but that was a lot. Wow.
Well, it was like multiple things of concentrate. Like it said concentrated lupulin, which lupulin is the oil in the hops. And then cryo hops is a concentrated amount of hops. But it's called, the Green Lab Experimental Hop Series. And we ended the last series of phase 4 was She-Hulk. And well, that seems like a Green Lab experiment.
Yes,
well, at least the original Hulk was. And I'm probably still going to be drinking this beer when we talk our Supernatural one that dropped the other day, because we're recording more than one. And I will explain to you why I picked this beer for that too, because I don't think I'm going to be done with it.
Look at that.
It's a double meaning. So yeah, New York. We went to New York to celebrate, to surprise our friend Tracy with a birthday.
Sorry, I had to get some in there.
Oh, it's hard not to. And it was Harry Potter themed. And if you've been listening to us for a while, I am a muggle. So I borrowed my daughter's golden snitch earrings. Erica brought her daughter's scarf. So I was a Hufflepuff. And then her brother made us all wear robes.
She chose wisely. Hufflepuff. Yes. I mean, all right. So I'm going to preface everything you're saying right now. Just know that I love Harry Potter, but we despise J.K. Rowling. She's a piece of human garbage. She sucks.
So does Tracy. Yeah.
And so it sucks because you really want to immerse yourself in Harry Potter. I want to show the kids Harry Potter, but she is such a trash human being. Oh my God. So I guess this is one instance. Like, is it okay to still separate the art from the artist? Like, can we still love Harry Potter while acknowledging that she's human garbage? Is that okay?
I think so. Thanks to things like Etsy. Okay. I mean, it's hard to, if you're going to Universal, you're not going Diagon Alley. So obviously she's still making money there.
Right.
But like a bunch of them were like, I wanted to go to the Harry Potter store because we went into the city, but they're like, but I'm not going to buy anything. I just want to go in. But I didn't really care. We ended up not doing that.
Because there's a new video game coming out, Harry Potter Legacy. And it looks great. It's an open world Harry Potter game set 100 years before, and you're wizards. And I want to buy it, but like, I don't want to buy it full price because then that's less money that goes back to her. I don't know. It's a conundrum. It sucks.
It does suck. I hate when it's like, damn it.
I'm sorry.
I miss Hobby Lobby. I love Hobby Lobby.
I know Hobby Lobby too. It's like, why do you guys have to like be garbage? Can we just not be such trash for 5 seconds? My goodness.
Well, I think I probably told you before, like Hobby Lobby, somebody on one of the Supernatural pages said they found a baby car on there. And that's just really funny because, they're religious owned and this show is, they call angels dicks. I'll leave it at that. And I don't want to ruin anything else for Matt. But no, we had a great time. We hit up a couple breweries. Last time I was there this summer, I went to Other Half that's on Centra. It's CENTRE. Tiny little place. You can tell they do a lot of brewing. Obviously the beer was fantastic, but it was a smaller brewery, but it was right off like the F train, I think. So it was, I walked right there, had my suitcase with me and everything. This time we went to the one in Domino Park. It was gorgeous. It was huge. It was right on the water. My friend Jessica she went outside. I didn't want to put my jacket back on, but she went outside and got some gorgeous pictures of like the bridge on the water and everything. So that's not the original Other Half, but I think it was absolutely beautiful. And they had a bunch of collabs with like Trillium. They had a collab with Trillium when we were there. I think they had a collab with Great Notion and a collab with The Veil. So, I mean, it was a great time to visit. And then my favorite spot was called Torst, Torst. And it's a Danish themed craft beer bar. But like a couple months ago, they had Hetty Topper.
Oh.
And so when we went there, it was pretty slammed and it started to kind of die out. And then there was only 2 of us left and we were sitting at the bar and they started, oh, well, what do you like? Because we started asking for recommendations. And the next thing we know, they are literally cleaning up and we're like, oh, we should go. And they're like, oh, you're fine. Finish your beer. So we closed the place out and had a great time, but paid for it dearly. And then
we can't be,
we went to 2 other
partying like that anymore. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
I think we had more, looking at our credit card statements, I think we had more than we thought we did. So we were comparing credit card statements today. And then we did Threes Brewing, which was a great one.
Oh, yeah,
and then
we've
I'm
had
blanking. Oh, Threes Brewing was the one that had coffee. Yeah. So they had
nice.
really good beer and really good coffee. And then they had like a random record pop up. So Ian actually bought a couple of records while we were there too. So that was fun.
Nice.
And then Tracy made us eat pizza, which was delicious.
Was it?
Oh, and then we ended at Grimm, which was fantastic.
I've heard of that place. What is it?
Grimm Artisan. It's a brewery.
Oh,
Grimm.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know the name rang a bell. I hope ideally I get put in New Jersey when I move, so that way like we can all just go to New York City because I've never actually been, and that'd be dope as hell. But that sounds like an awesome trip.
Yeah.
It was a good time, and I
slapped up some stickers in random places.
Oh yeah,
You'll be there before you know it.
If you're in the NYC, we're there. We're having beer, or our stickers are up there, so that's pretty great. Check out those places.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep, and yeah, definitely tourist. Oh my gosh, so good.
This kind of rolls into our messed up. What did we look into? The only mess up we have last week is the fact that you drank too much and you couldn't rally the next day. You messed up. You didn't have.
I rallied to an extent.
Have your vitamins. You didn't have your vitamins.
So I kind of did. I had my first dose of vitamins and I couldn't remember if I had my second dose, and so I just didn't have them. But I got up.
That's where you messed up.
That's where you straightened my hair. I got on the subway. I went to the city. I saw Winnie the Pooh at the library, which I was very excited. And then I got Pedialyte and ate a chicken pot pie.
No,
the Pedialyte changed my life.
What did I tell you about hangover cures? Anybody out there listening, if you get hungover, there's a simple cure. It is a large iced coffee and a bagel from Dunkin' Donuts.
I would have puked.
It cures
I did eat a bagel.
Hangovers. I don't know how it does. You have a large iced, you get a bagel and cream cheese. You're good to go. You're set. You're rallying.
I think it works for you as like a placebo effect.
No.
Oh, I had a hangover patch on. I took more vitamins. The Pedialyte is what helped.
Carry the B.
And then I had a friend who actually had a homebrew, and he brought his homebrew to Tracy's party. He lives in Jersey, and I was like, oh, it was really good. He made a pale ale, and I drank half a cup of it. And fortunately, the party only had Stella, so that made it easy to not drink.
Oh, wolf. Well,
yeah.
Well, I don't assume.
But it was a good time.
I'm glad. That's awesome. Good time. How about, have we been reading or watching? I assume you got to watch some stuff on the plane, at least on the way there and back. You sent me a picture. You were watching something. I remember what it was now.
Yes. So on the way there, I was actually reading some I have the recent trade back of the Darth Vader series, and that ended really well. So I'm loving that, where he's talking to basically Keira Knightley's character, the handmaiden for Padme, is strong in this one. So that I'm really enjoying that, and I'll post a picture of all of those trade backs on our Instagram if anybody wants to check that series out. So I read that on the way there, and on the way back, I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, what'd you think about it? It earned really 11 Oscar nominations. So it's taking the Oscars by Jamie Lee Curtis got Best Supporting Actress, and it's heavy in the Oscars this year, including Best Picture. Does it live up to that?
I didn't realize. I think so. Oh, that was really good. Have you seen it? You saw it.
I've seen it. Okay.
I was going to say, I thought you recommended it.
I do. I like it.
Oh, you liked it, but you didn't love it. Okay.
Yeah. I personally don't have it in my top movie of the year. I liked it a lot, but to me, it's not. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't connect. It's a very well done movie. I can appreciate the hell out of that, but to me, it just didn't click. But it is a good movie. I mean, you got Jamie Lee Curtis with hot dog fingers, for God's sakes. It's
my God.
You got butt plugs. You got all sorts of weird things. And the
rocks.
Fighting, the rocks. The fighting sequences are so well done and creative. So that was amazing. So yeah, I'm glad you finally got to watch it. So it lived up to it for you. So that's good.
Yeah, especially because I really had no idea what to expect. And then I was, my daughter picked me up from the airport and I was telling her about it. And I was like, by the time it ended, I feel like I should have watched it with you and you'll find out when you watch it. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I feel like it would have been a good movie to watch with my daughter.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. And I didn't realize it was the kid from the Goonies and from Indiana Jones until later.
Did
I
you
not
know
realize.
he also did uncredited stunt work on X-Men, like the original X-Men movies?
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
There's been
Well, and then
pictures
their
circulating,
daughter was in Shang-Chi. I think she was their friend.
Mm-hmm.
Because she looked really familiar, so I IMDb'd her. But I really liked it. Another thing I watched is The Last of Us. Holy shit, that's been phenomenal.
I can't believe I didn't talk about that last week. But by now...
Well, I'm glad you didn't because I hadn't seen it.
Right. Well, by now, when this airs, the third episode's coming out tonight. And so apparently, according to everybody who has seen it ahead of time, it's like the best episode of television that has ever blessed us. And my God, what a show. Holy smokes. It's now, you obviously don't play video games, so you didn't know what was going to happen. Take us through, what did you expect? Like, did that catch you off guard?
Maybe we did talk a little bit about this so the first episode, no, I completely expected it. Actually, the 2 deaths I expected solely because of the posters and who's in the poster. 100%. I thought the one in the second episode was going to last another one.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yes. So I knew without a doubt that something was going to happen to the daughter and that was going to set him up to become the, brooding lead male role that's, wants to be not nice, but he is really nice and it's still in him. So I knew that was going to happen for that to happen. And that's the thing with the show. And it might've been Sean from MetalcoreNerds that said it. And he's going to be on this podcast in a few minutes here. Where it might've been him. I can't remember where somebody said, it's like, you almost know some of the stuff that's going to happen, but it's still good. It's like, you're still on the edge of your seat, waiting for these things to happen. Absolutely. And so in the death in the second episode, I 100% knew that was coming. I thought they might hold out till the third. But the way they did it, it was really good.
That's what's great. So we've played I played the video games. Even knowing what happens. So in Sarah's death, like even knowing how that it was scene for the video game, that whole sequence, they added, they've changed up. So in the video game, spores are how you get infected and like how it all communicates. Whereas they can't do that in this because obviously they can't wear a gas mask 24/7. And so the hive mind they created is a really good twist to get around that. And then it started, differently and they have the professors talking, but yeah, even knowing what happened, it just built that sense of dread, which is building up because what's going to happen to Sarah. And in the video game, it's a car crash, not an airplane crash. Didn't take you out of it at all. But the death in the second episode, Tess, she dies differently because in this, they step on and the horde comes out. In the game, it's Fedra.
So we need a spoiler warning.
Yeah, I mean, if at this point you should probably already have known, but Fedra is the one who comes and busts in and kills her and she sacrifices so they can get away because she was bitten.
I knew she was going to end up sacrificing something. I knew that was going to be what it was. Because once she established like a relationship with the girl, she got a little protective.
I got to say what's funny is the layout of Boston in this. Like you're not walking on a plank anywhere near Quincy Market there. So when they're looking down and there's the horde of infected laying there, that's Quincy Market. You're not walking on a plank anywhere, first and foremost. Second of all, the museum is nowhere close to where they're at. So it's just
so you can't watch shows from your hometown.
No, it doesn't take anything away, but it's just funny looking at. I'm like, again, the Leo meme. I'm like, I know, all that place, but the sequence with the clickers where they walk into that museum area, that was shot for shot the movie, and they did or the game, and they did a really great job building up the suspense. I thought they got the clickers down really well. They made it so that way.
I like that, and it's like sonar.
Yeah, so that's stage 3. That's stage 3 of the infection, and then what's coming up is what's called bloaters, which we're going to be introduced in episode 3. So I'm not going to say anything about those things, but
that makes me think of the water zombie from
you're close.
Dead. But I think what's interesting about this is how it's the most realistic zombie thing I've ever seen. It's like the most like, oh, this could actually happen because we have zombie ants. Like you've always heard that. Like, and oh, they actually die out on their own. Cause that's what always kills me in Walking Dead. Like,
Right.
how does their brain not decay in that one
their
single part?
bodies.
But you can stab them anywhere in the head and they go down. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
On The Walking Dead.
I agree. I mean, in The Walking Dead, that universe, the zombies, they decay. So how are they still? Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
That's always been my beef with zombies too, because at some point they're going to decay and the.
But the thing is, when they stab them in the head, no matter where they stab them, they're done. That's a kill shot. But that part of their brain never decays. There could be a fucking literal skeleton, and that part of their brain hasn't decayed.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point. I don't know. I will say, speaking of science, I really enjoyed the scientist at the beginning, where she was like, bomb the city.
Yes.
I want to go home because there's nothing you can do. And I was like, wow, that is fucking dark. But
then she starts crying and wants to go with her family. So you're like, she knew what was coming.
Yeah. These cold openings, hardcore, badass, really good. And the scene where Tess gets kissed, if you want to call it that. People call it kiss. So
why?
What happens? She's infected, right? And so what? Right. It wasn't a kiss. It was this infected zombie. He can recognize that she's infected, so he's just speeding up the process, is what that was.
But why did she let him?
I think so. At this point, the infection's taking over, and I think her motor functions. I think her motor functions were like, dissipating at this point because the infection's spreading.
I think when you're in a hurry, I mean, that's hard to click that later.
There was a lot going on, and then you're also just like frozen in fear,
Yeah,
that other thing. So yeah, that wasn't in the game. That was tapped. It was a great addition, man. It was good. So yeah, The Last of Us, it's living up to the hype and then some. In my opinion, this was my number one most anticipated show of the year. It's hitting every beat, and what they said is season 1 encompasses the first game. And so I'm interested to see where they go after that, all that stuff. Don't spoil yourself, because the second video game is pretty freaking crazy. Something happened. So yeah, go watch The Last of Us.
Okay, that's going to be hard. I'm going to have to avoid all that. Yeah, it wasn't on my list at all, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I figured you would, because it's in that realm. So I'm glad that you started watching. It's great. It's great. Did you watch anything else?
The only thing I watched was the Winchesters came back, but since we're recording Supernatural, I'm going to talk about that. All I will say on here is, if you gave up after the first episode, this was the best episode since the first episode.
It takes some TV shows a little bit of time to get their footing. So yeah.
Actually, I guess all I can say without ruining it is there was 3 cameos from characters you'll know. You won't know yet. You'll only know one of them, but there's 2 more you'll know soon.
Well, How I Met Your Father had a cameo that everybody would know. So,
what was it? Jason Segel,
Barney,
Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah. Anyways, that's not really a spoiler. That season, but yeah. So, I didn't watch really. I watched football. That's what I watched, and Supernatural, which we're going to talk about in our bonus episode. You can check that out. Last of Us, we just talked about that. So. Again, I have to go to my comic shop. I haven't been there in like a month, so I got to go say hey to everybody. I really want to go see the Infinity Pool that comes out, or is out at this point, and it's got Alexander Skarsgård and Mia Goth, who Mia Goth, in my opinion, was snubbed. She should have been nominated for an Oscar over Ana de Armas. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's roll into some news before we get Sean on the show and we just gush and talk about Marvel. First things first, I love this movie. Top 3 movie of the year, Violent Night. Well, there's a sequel in the works. Sign me up right now. I hope we get more of Skull Crusher, and maybe we'll see some of the family. But Violent Night 2 is in the works. No surprise there. Once again, it's Die Hard meets Home Alone. If you haven't watched it, do yourself a favor. It is on Peacock. Go and watch that movie.
Instant Christmas classic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. It's a rewatch. The rewatchability on this movie's infinite. So watch that. Unfortunately, there's some news that we all kind of saw coming. Doom Patrol and Titans are done after season 4. The writing was on the walls a bit there. And
I'm okay with Titans.
I mean, I like both, regardless of how you feel about how tight. Like Doom Patrol is some of the most like fantastic television.
Oh my
Titans,
gosh, it's so fun.
yeah, and it brought us Brendan Fraser back. So like we get the Brendan Fraser.
It's got an amazing cast.
It does.
You got Missy from Doctor Who. You got Crowley from Supernatural. You got Brendan Fraser. You got the girl from Isabella. Isabella, your boyfriend.
Canto, and she's also in Orange Is the New Black. So yeah,
love her in Orange Is the New Black.
It's great. So unfortunately, that's ending. Titans is ending. Regardless of how you feel, I enjoy it. It has its ups and downs, but season 4 was doing pretty strong. So after the second half of season 4, both of these split up into 2. They're going to be done. And this was, fans were like, yo, James Gunn. Thanks, James Gunn. Thanks, James Gunn. Well, in James Gunn fashion, he was like, these were decisions that were made before we even took over in our respective spots with DC. So look, we have nothing to do with this one. So Leia,
right. I think we all saw it kind of coming.
You did. You kind of did with all they're basically closing the book on DC prior to James Gunn. So we're going to start hearing about the first couple chapters of James Gunn's DC universe here soon. So more to come there. I would love the costume designs in Titans and Doom Patrol are great. Maybe we can get some of those characters back. No one's to say that we can't get these guys recurring roles or maybe their own TV show set again. Who knows? It's never the end. So Only Murders in the Building season 3. That's another show that I absolutely gush about. They've begun filming. And not only is Paul Rudd in this season, which if you watch season 2, you would know, Meryl Streep. Selena Gomez did a TikTok where they were talking. She showed Paul Rudd, and then Meryl Streep just pops out from behind, and you're like, what? So again, the cast of this show should not work as well as they do, but by God, they hit every note, and they are so wholesome together. The writing is so clever. Do yourself a favor, go to Hulu, watch Only Murders seasons 1 and 2. Season 3 should be out this year. And then my last bit of news, The Last of Us episode 2, the audience actually went up 22% from the debut, which is the biggest jump ever for HBO. We have another stellar killer hit on our hands with The Last of Us. No surprise. Again, if you've seen the show, Pedro Pascal, God, I'd watch him read the Bible at this point. So.
Well, he's hosting SNL on February 4th.
He is this weekend. This weekend, Pedro Pascal will be hosting SNL with special guest Coldplay. Regardless, I like Coldplay.
Coldplay,
yeah.
Wow, I'm just like an old school. Whatever.
Yeah, I did Coldplay.
Taking it back, I like it. With Paul Rudd, I feel like you could throw him into literally anything and it would work. A movie, TV show, throw him into some. I mean, look at who was in the last 2 seasons of Friends, and he did fine.
Was he really?
He didn't. Yeah, he married Phoebe. So, bless you. He was you never watched it. He was crap bag.
I don't care about
Phoebe when she married him. She wanted to change her name to Princess Consuela Banana Hammock, and he said, "Okay, then I'm going to change my name to Crap Bag." And he's like, first name Crap, last name Bag.
Oh well,
he did a good job.
He's in my favorite comedy film ever. I Love You, Man, which I signed an email today because I was running a class and I was like, I'll see you there. I'll see you another time. Man, I don't think anybody got the reference. It's nobody. They probably were all confused. Like, is this guy on drugs? No.
Doing drugs, son.
Well, you're right. Paul Rudd,
I haven't seen that one in a while. That probably would have gone over my head. But yeah, he was even in the series finale. So here's my quick news. You can buy Pet Rocks from Everything Everywhere All at Once from A24. They're currently sold out, but they will be coming back. An animated Harley Quinn, A Very Problematic Valentine's Day special, will be coming to HBO Max on February 9th. Invincible Season 2, we've already kind of heard this, but they have confirmed it will be coming out later this year.
Yeah.
This one is ridiculous. So this past weekend, Splash Mountain finally closed for good. To make way for Tiana's Bayou adventure. And I'm very excited for that. I never gave 2 shits about Splash Mountain.
This piece of news is real.
This piece of news is real. People are selling Splash Mountain water on eBay. And like some of them, you can go to eBay. My kids didn't believe me. So they went on there and they're like, oh my gosh, this person's selling a water bottle of...
Are people buying it?
Yeah. And they're selling it for like $500. Yeah.
Lauren, oh my God. You want to fund our website? What are you doing? Just go fill up your tap. Go fill up a water bottle of tap water. Put some dirt in it. You're good.
Well, then Erica texted earlier because we were texting about it in a group chat, and she was there 2 days before it closed. She went on it, and so she's drinking water, and she's like, "How do you know this isn't it?" And I'm like, "You know what? I'd judge you if it was Universal water because that water is dirty."
If you drank that water, that's probably how The Last of Us starts in real life.
Maybe. But yeah, so it's gross. People are ridiculous. Oh, and somebody else is selling like the last map that actually has Splash Mountain in it. So these are the things that end up being like stuff that people
do
want.
I have my Disney? I think I have some of my Disney maps.
Maybe you can sell it.
I'm about to strike it gold.
Well, because the next day they already had like, Future Tiana ride coming. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think it's Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I'm just hoping
Something
they
like that.
sell beignets right over there because that would be amazing.
Disney doesn't wait for the body to get cold at all before they put up the next thing, so it doesn't surprise me.
Well, Splash Mountain should have never gone up to begin with.
Very racist, that ride is, yes.
And it didn't make sense. It's like you're not even selling the movie anymore, but you're going to open a ride based on the movie in the 90s.
Did you see the line? I saw the line. Oh my God, 5 hours to wait to ride that crappy ride?
I mean, anytime a ride's about to close, well, not any, I don't know. We did Maelstrom the last day it was open. I'm still sad.
You ain't going to catch me. You are not going to catch me.
But we did 5 hours. We didn't wait more than an hour because we had the kids with us. But I don't know. I didn't even care to go to Splash Mountain. So Taron Egerton, this is a little bit of funny news. It's not real news. So he's the guy from Kingsman and Rocket Man. Amazing actor. He's so good in both of those. If you haven't seen Rocket Man, I highly recommend it.
Rocket Man.
So he had Wolverine rumors spinning around him for years now. I feel like we've all heard that. We've all talked about that.
Yeah, old news.
So, Hugh Jackman, though, recently responded to it during an interview saying, quote, Taron is one of the most talented actors out there, and you can see his range is incredible, but he's just got to cool his heels a bit, end quote. I love that it was like, not yet, kid.
This is still his rodeo.
I'm not passing it. Exactly. He told us he was done in 2017.
He shared a picture of like the realistic Wolverine helmet too. Hugh Jackman did. So
God, I love him.
Maybe they're going to give us something good.
Well, and I love too that when he said he first talked to Ryan about doing Deadpool, he didn't want to fuck up Logan. And so I love that. He's like, I did such a good job saying goodbye to this character and I want to keep that. And with the timeline, it works. So it'll be very fun to see how that works.
Oh, yeah.
Zoe Saldana is now the first actor, not actress, actor with 4 $2 billion movies.
God,
that is amazing.
Never has to work a day in her life again. Avatar twice, and
Gamora
Avengers.
Twice.
God dang, that's crazy.
I just think it's so cool that it was her. That's so cool.
That's what I'm saying. Like I love it. I love it for so many reasons. She's great. And so the fact that she's the first one to do it, hell yeah, let's go.
Dude, I fell in love with her in Center Stage when I was in high school. Prima ballerina, that one. So I love when she says, I don't dance in Guardians. I'm like, you dance beautifully.
We've seen the tape.
So here's some MegaCon news. If you're going to MegaCon in Orlando, which if you are, let me know because I will definitely be there, whether or not we have press passes.
Fingers crossed. I also submitted Lauren for a panel. Fingers crossed.
Yes, fingers crossed. But some of the guests they recently announced, Sam Raimi, Christina Ricci, Sean Gunn, Vincent DiForino, Zach Morris, and more. Or Paul Gosselaar, whatever the hell his real name is.
There's so many. It's stacked. It's absolutely stacked at MegaCon this year. I hope that you get to go.
I think Bo-Katan's going to be there. Ahsoka's like always there.
Yeah, I probably. And they're not even done announcing people. I mean, it's January. The con's in March. So I guarantee, or the end of March, really. So there's some big names still to come. I have no doubts. It's one of the biggest Comic-Cons. It's one of the most fun that I've been to. So hopefully it all works out. And you get to run a panel and get to get some press passes.
It'd be exciting and
they're the only con that hasn't been kind to us yet. So let's hope they turn it around.
Because they know I'm going to pay for the damn tickets no matter what. They're like, oh, she's been here the last 5 years. Probably more than that. She came during COVID.
It's crazy. We've had good relationships with these other cons, but MegaCons, no, this is like, hey, all right, man. I'm sorry. So let's hope 2023 is our year. Going to be our year. But yeah, with that said, we're going to go ahead and roll into our main topic, which is we're going to wrap up phase 4. Like I said, we're going to roll into our phase 5 predictions. Sean from MetalcoreNerds is going to join us in just a moment. If you want to check out his show, go search him, MetalcoreNerds, and you can catch him on Adobe Radio, Adobe Howl, and really great radio station. Check them out as well. And yeah, we'll see you guys in just a moment. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are with Sean, famously from MetalcoreNerds podcast, which we'll let him talk in just a minute. Special shout out to the brand Roosevelt's for unofficially sponsoring this portion of the podcast with this sick Guardians of the Galaxy shirt I've got on. Once again, as always, go ahead, get your sweet shirts, merch from them, rsvlts.com. They don't know it, but I'm just going to throw them out there, and one day maybe they'll sponsor us. But Sean, welcome back to the show, man. You've been on once or twice. I've lived on your show for an entire summer. What's up, man?
It's true. Hi, happy to be back.
Yeah,
I love you guys. I love my my little shout outs when I correct you guys when you're wrong. It's my favorite parts of the show. You're
like the man in the chair. You're like the oracle of no, this isn't right, and we're like, that's right. Our producers telling us that we're messing up over here. So,
whenever we're wrong, though, I absolutely love it. But then there was one time where I was like, no, that's not what I meant. And I was like, I have to fix this error. I was misunderstood. But it's funny when you go back and listen to yourself, like sometimes you're like, that's not what I meant. Like having a podcast gives you a unique perspective on just conversations.
Yeah, it really does. And I will say 9 times out of 10, you guys will forget something or look something up and you'll correct yourselves within the episode. So most of the times I'll like text you something and I'm like, oh no, now I even wait because I'm like, Lauren will end up looking it up. she'll look it up. She
doesn't want to end up on the list.
Learn from her mistakes. And she's like, I'll fix this now rather than hear from it later.
I love a good redemption.
Yeah,
look, everybody loves a redemption arc. You're right.
Yeah, we're human. We're human beings.
That's right. And sometimes we forget things. I forget things all the time, such as my wife was yelling at me because she actually, for the first time like ever, listened to an episode of ours, which was the Supernatural one we just put out. And she was like, you didn't talk about the awful slow motion in the time or the Croatoan episode. Like Supernatural uses some pretty bad slow motion effects. And I was like, oh crap, you're right. So that's got to go on next week. But
that was on film. Budget. Like you're still on the episodes that have film, not digital.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Because it's 2006 is what he's on now. Maybe 07.
Yeah, that's true. But
I was telling Mash, I watched I think the first few seasons of Supernatural, but it was years ago, and I do not remember anything. Like not a single thing.
It's funny. I've heard that from a few people. They're like, yeah, I was in that show in like the mid 2000s. And is it still on? Is it still good? It's kind of, and it blows my mind how some people are obsessed with it and some people have never heard of it. And
yeah,
it's a very unique show in that regard. Yeah. Well, like, that's at Dawson's Creek.
That's much like what, like Sean brought up before. We live in this bubble. And it's like you don't realize how many people don't live within the nerd bubble until you talk to some common peasant on the street. And they're just like, what?
To lead us into phase 4, I feel like I didn't realize that as much until Spider-Man was about to come out. And I would have like my husband's friends being like, wait, so how many of these movies do I have to watch before I see this movie? And wait, so it's connected to those old movies? Like, and I didn't realize how many people were like so confused by that. And then I had more than one of his friends texting me, okay, I watched this. What do I watch next?
Yeah, I mean, that's why these YouTube channels like Screen Crush, New Rockstars, all those are so popular because you look up, what do I need to know? And those videos pop up, obviously. And then they find out what they need to know in 10 minutes rather than watching 9 movies.
I could do without the dog clips. But other than that,
I love the dog clips. I like the high fives.
What is your mom thing? He always says, and that's your mom. And I don't understand that.
I don't know. I think he's just always done it. I haven't watched him long enough to know how far it roots back. I have watched him for several years now, but obviously he was doing it years before that. So I don't really know. I always wondered that too. And I was like, your mom jokes in 2023.
We still do those, huh? We still do those? Is that?
But my husband always will do that. Your mom went to college and he'll say your mom this. And one time I did it to him and he told his mom what I said. He goes, you know what Lauren said earlier? He said your mom this. And his mom looks at me and she goes, why would you say that? I'm like, oh my God.
Like, first of all, what?
Josh is a jerk.
Snitch.
But anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, Screen Crush is a great YouTube source. Like Sean was saying, I would watch it like every week after like She-Hulk or something. And it gives you a lot of fun facts and Easter eggs and connects things. So is it Ryan Avery, I think?
Ryan Avery.
Airy.
Yeah. He just did a great or great video on The Last of Us Part 2, the video game. If you have not played the games and you're watching the show, do not watch that video because it'll spoil something very insanely major that's to come. I don't want people who have never played the game to get spoiled on it because it is massive. And I cannot understate how massive it is. It is
it
earth-shattering.
Yeah, it literally changes
crazy.
the entire scape of the show. How massive this is, and so it's.
Will it happen soon or no?
No, it's not going to happen.
It'll happen in
next
season 2, probably. Yeah. I don't know when they're going to do it because they do a weird thing with time, in not like time traveling or things, but they do kind of a thing where you see the same events through different perspectives. And I don't think they'll do the same way in the show. I think they'll kind of interweave them rather than do one than do the other. And there's a 5-year time jump between part 1 and part 2 as well. So I don't know. And there's a lot of flashbacks within the game. So I don't know if they're going to like do a season of the flashbacks to lead in. And then like the third season will be like the main events of the game or not. They have talked about how they need to do more than one season because part 2 is a lot of game.
Yeah. I feel like they're probably going to do a season filling in that 5-year gap is what I'm thinking, because they also want to stretch out that money. I mean, yeah, we can stay faithful to the games, but if you do that, you're pretty much just wrapping the show up in 2 seasons because season 1 wraps up the game 1. So you got to prolong it. So you'll probably get a season of what's happening in between. And then
I think so too. I think the big twist will be the finale. Of season 2. That's what everyone kind of thinks, and I would tend to agree. And people are not prepared.
For a couple of years,
so I have a long time to avoid that spoiler.
Stay off the internet for a couple of years.
Okay,
anything you see, anything The Last of Us Part 2, do not read it.
All right, I'll be back in 2025, guys.
Yeah.
Do not read it. Whatever you do.
Well, let's go ahead.
It's been amazing. Yeah, let's do it.
You guys ready to roll in? So, Lauren, why don't you take us away? We're going to start with release dates before we're going to go into ranking afterwards, but let's start with the release dates and what all phase 4 encompassed.
So this started January 2021. So what kind of blew my mind going over this is all of this was 2021 and 2022. So we got all of phase 4 in 2 years and we got so much content. So while Matt's over there sneezing, we started with WandaVision. This was, I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. This was my personal favorite show. So here's some fun facts and then we shall discuss because it wasn't discussed enough back in January and February of 2021.
Mephisto.
Vision was blue for the black and white parts. So that was a trick they used to use. The girls even in the old shows would wear blue lipstick so that it would look like it was bright red. They used actual old school TV movie tricks for the older themed episodes. And WandaVision follows the stages of grief, starting with denial. So you see that in each episode, she's going through grief. Feige actually had lunch with Dick Van Dyke before filming to ask him questions since episode 1 was based on Dick Van Dyke. So there's my few fun facts.
I knew there was a reason my wife loved that one so much. She has like this weird like Dick Van Dyke. She's like, yeah. Anyways,
we all got our quirks.
This one was a good one. What did you think of WandaVision?
Oh, I love WandaVision. I even rewatched, I think, the last 3 episodes before Multiverse of Madness too, because obviously that played a major factor in the events of that movie. And man, what a way to kick off phase 4 with just depression.
Yeah, dude,
but in a fun way.
Well, fun
and
at
nostalgic,
first.
yeah.
and then not so fun by the end. But yeah, I think it changed a lot of people's opinions on Wanda. You know, because she was kind of just a background character. Obviously, she did play a pretty big factor in Infinity War, and she had that awesome moment in Endgame, like ripping Thanos apart, which was sick. But this kind of really put her on the map as like a fan favorite. And that's part of why I loved this show, other than tackling the deals of like loss and everything like that. That was really cool for them to start to, it was really the start of them diving into trauma in all shapes and forms in phase 4. But yeah, it was a great way to start it. And it kind of, in a time where there wasn't any new content, it brought back like appointment TV. You know, like everyone was like, what's happening next week? And the theories got ungodly out of it. That's probably the part I hate about it. And they're like, man, they really let us down with that finale. I was like, I
No,
just
you
think
let
everyone
yourself
got a
down.
little too crazy with theories, and you didn't get what you thought you were going to get for some reason. I was like, they gave us what they promised. They gave us a
Yeah.
show about Wanda and Vision. That's what we got, and I loved it. And even rewatching it, I was like, man, that 8th episode is unreal. It's so good.
If you think about it too, with this show, this came, we were still dealing with the pandemic, right? We were still like, are we on lockdown? Are we not on lockdown? The year before, we didn't have like any Marvel content whatsoever come out. So we
Which
were
is the
starved.
first time in well over a decade.
Yeah. So we were starved for content. And then, of course, you change it up to the week to week episodic format. And everybody just, God bless those theories. You had Mephisto ran wild pretty much. And then everybody was so disappointed. Like, there was no Mephisto. He's literally just Ralph Boner. And I was like, I was disappointed by the Ralph Boner thing. Like, but hopefully there's more to come there. And Evan Peters, because you got Evan Peters back. Like, yeah. Well, like, let's hope that wasn't just a waste. But at the same time, you guys kind of let yourself down on this one. Like, we got what was promised essentially. And because you just let your minds go and started reading too much. But overall, though, this series was fantastic, and it really did bring Wanda to light because she had been through a lot. Like, we focus on Thor and how much grief and things that Thor had gone through, but you never really thought about Wanda. You're just like, oh yeah, she's just kind of there. But her brother, and then she had to kill Vision, and after being holed up and on the run and all that stuff, and then she goes and gets snapped for 5 years and comes back, and Vision's gone again, and she's left with this loss and this grief, and she built her own family.
Mm-hmm. I also, one of the things I loved about this was I didn't know that a superhero story could be told like this.
Yeah.
Like, I remember maybe like the second episode, so I think they released 2 the first week, and sitting there with my oldest daughter and being like, we're watching a Marvel show right now. Like, we're watching MCU. Like, how weird is this to think that, when we saw Iron Man in 2008, that this is connected. And so I thought it was such a unique and fun way to bring this character that had kind of been 2D, to be fully dimensional and not just be oh yeah, she's super powerful. Why was she up there the whole time? A joke, so to speak. And she also dealt with the grief of like, she was the one that kind of spawned the Sokovia Accords in a way, like when she blew up the one area and she didn't mean to. And so I feel like she was grieving that too. And the only thing she had left to cling to, she had to kill, then watch come back, and then watch die. So yeah, I guess we don't realize she lost as much as Thor did because she didn't have as much to lose.
Yeah.
But it was just so much fun too. Just the TV callbacks and, watching it go through the decades. And I love Deborah Jo was, made an appearance in one of them. And it was just such a good time. And then we got Agatha all along, and she's coming back.
Not for nothing too. Like, the actors were great. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen, the way she was able to transition from
she's
sitcom
amazing.
And then to portray the grief and the anger and all that. Like, wow, she acted her ass off.
Full Mama Bear.
Yeah. Emmy nominated. For that show.
And of course, we got Photon, and everybody was like, "It's Reed Richards is coming," and Reed Richards still hasn't came yet. So,
and people that thought that were wild, dude.
Look,
They're just throwing everything at the wall. They're like, we want everything for phase 4 and 5 and 6 in this show right now because we haven't gotten any content in a year.
Yeah, that's very true.
That was the first time I did an after show on my show too.
That's true.
Because I mean, that was the first time there was anything to new to talk about. It kind of dawned a new era of the show that show. So that was cool.
So then we go into
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which in my opinion, this one's a little underrated, but I understand why. And so there's a 30-second clip in Captain America Civil War where they bicker about the placement of Sam's seat. And they said that they built on that chemistry from that 30 seconds of Bucky and Sam in the car messing with the seats while Cap is over there schmoozing Peggy's
his niece. Maybe.
So anyways,
like his niece now.
Anyways, Zemo's amazing dance that we all love and still gift to this day was ad-libbed by the actor. So that's pretty fun. But yeah, this show, in my opinion, I like the show a lot. I get it. It's a lot of people had issues because there's like not really much to it in a way. Nothing really happens until like the last episode. But what they did really well in this is Captain America's gone, Sam's taking over, and everybody pretty much was like, there's no way a black man could be Captain America. And there was like a lot of race and stuff built into this, and it was a struggle. And I thought that bringing that part out, that Sam's this hero, but he's still broke. His sister's broke, can't get a loan. He's treated this way despite fighting Thanos and saving the universe, essentially. He's still relegated to this. And then Bucky was still dealing with some pretty heavy trauma.
Yeah. I feel like often that's why they throw like a Bruce Wayne or a Tony Stark in the comics, so they can just fund everything and they don't have to talk about these topics.
Oh, of course.
So, and I love that they threw Isaiah Bradley in there, because his background story, he was the older guy, the guy that they experimented on, and his story, I do hope we get more of that. I think we're going to get more of him. I think he's coming back in New World Order. But it was neat to see too that people had issue with them unsnapping the snap. And because you don't realize how many people committed suicide during that 5 years, how many people, look at Monica comes back and she has no mom. And so that, just the repercussions of all of it, we just never see that in superhero stuff. And this was the first time we really did see that. But I also think this was the most not cliche series we got on Disney Plus, but the most, okay, this feels like we're watching MCU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas everything else was a little more unique.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. It was very like a movie spread out over 6 episodes for sure. Yeah, for me, I really like this series too. It's just the lows were really low and the highs were really high. So it kind of met back in the middle, because, seeing him wear that cap suit at the end is so great. His speech at the end was amazing. Even that moment with adding Isaiah Bradley to the monument was unreal. I was bawling my eyes out. Even the moment with Bucky just saying, like, if Cap was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me, was so incredible to see. And even his moment in Wakanda of him breaking the Winter Soldier programming, like scenes like that were so incredible. But the Flag Smasher stuff was kind of underbaked and everything like that. But that generic. I know a lot of it was like they had to rewrite stuff, they had to reshoot stuff, because it was like a virus-based thing, and obviously doing a virus-based plot point at that point in time really wouldn't have been that great. So that makes sense with that. I kind of give it some forgiveness. And I know a lot of Phase 4 kind of suffered with that, with delays, rewrites, everything like that, like protocols while filming and stuff. So there's that stuff involved as well. But I'm super excited to see what Cap 4 holds in store, and even the Thunderbolts for Bucky.
Oh yeah.
So anything in the Phase 4, like, I don't think was bad, to be
honest. No, there was nothing that was like, oh wow, this is absolutely terrible. There was just like, oh, okay, this happened or whatever. And I will
there was no Wonder Woman 3 moments or movies.
Right. I will say the one thing I didn't really like was Sharon becoming the power broker.
Oh, yeah, hated that.
But you didn't see it coming.
No, it's because
thing is, in our after show, we talked about it numerous times. And I was like, if this happens, I'm going to be pissed.
Oh, so you did see it coming.
And then it happened, and I was pissed. It just, one of my friends who was listening to the show, he's like, I bet it's Sharon. And I'm like, dude, there's no way it's Sharon. And I even said in the show, I was like, I don't care when I'm wrong. I'm like, I'm wrong all the time with predictions and everything like that and theories all the time. Happy with that. And I was like, I am mad because it doesn't make any sense. Because all the story they did before, I was like, she was the worst like crime boss ever, because she just let all this shit happen right in front of her.
There was no reason for her to be the crime boss out of nowhere. Like,
the only thing that gave me hope was that after credits scene, because I was like, if they end up adding more to this and they make it interesting going forward, which obviously she might come to play in Cap 4 or the Thunderbolts or whatever, it's kind of hard because we haven't seen a ton of the ground level stuff really go back to that yet. So, and now we're kind of waiting to go back to that. So I'm open to see it becoming better.
Yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we got just getting Madripoor in general. Like when I saw Princess Bar, I was like, okay, where's Wolverine? Like, right. So I literally rewound it and paused it and then explained to my kids why that was so important. Or my older daughter, she's not like, care.
Listen up, kids.
All right.
Take a look at this screen right here. Do you know what this is?
I did say that. I said, do you know what this is? I go, that's Wolverine's bar. And they're just kind of looking at me. He's like, I get it, Mom. I get it. You need my brother Logan.
Mom, you've had this paused for about 5 minutes. We understand. Can we move along? He's not there.
Can we finish this episode, please? Jesus.
Right. No, you're going to sit there and stare at the screen so you fully appreciate what is here.
And then I pulled out comic books. No, I didn't go that far, but but I should. But I was the next time I was reading a comic book and Madripoor came up, I did show her because she doesn't read those types of comics. So
I told you.
So let's move on to Loki. This is bad because we could go back and do 2-hour episodes on each of these shows.
Oh, easily.
So, next is Loki. So Owen Wilson knew very little about the MCU. So Tom Hiddleston educated him on what he called, quote, Loki lectures. They had worked together before on Midnight in Paris, so they had already been familiar with each other, which I would guess helped these lectures go smoothly.
I could just picture Tom sitting there. They're all decked out in their garb, and he's explaining, and Owen Wilson's just like, so wait, it's just, I don't know. I feel like Owen Wilson, because you think of Owen Wilson, you think in like all these comedy movies, like Wedding Crashers and things like that. And now he's playing a more serious character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's crazy the actors that we get to come into the MCU, especially starting in Phase 4 and on. It's wild.
Well, I'm almost done with Stargirl, and watching his brother in Stargirl, there's been a few times I'm waiting for the punchline or I'm waiting for somebody to laugh after Luke Wilson says something. And I was like, oh, this is just a serious scene. My bad.
Yeah, he's great in that show. I've only watched season 1, but he is fantastic.
Oh, yeah, he is. Agreed.
Yeah.
He's great. Loki's, I guess, spoiler for my rankings, this is my favorite TV show. I loved, you get me with multiverse time hijinks, I'm in. That's like, you have me there. But seeing, because a lot of people have kind of pegged up the whole multiverse thing to like, oh, it's cheating because people don't really die. But what this show showed is that version we know is dead, gone, not here anymore. Totally different version. And I kind of love that. And they, even in that first episode, they show you how different he is and how fast he gets to like the point that the old Loki we knew already got to, and he goes even further than that. And this is the show that birthed the Kang train. I think
it is.
That finale is going to be a very big talking point, especially leading up to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, obviously, because that was our first introduction to a version of Kang. And man, that finale is a very different kind of finale. It's not some big battle. It's literally 3 people talking in a room.
I was going to say a lot of people were complaining after that finale because they're like, oh, nothing happened. It was so boring. But it was like
so much happened.
No, there was a lot that happened. Did you listen at all? Like the exposition we got from Jonathan Majors, from Sylvie, from Loki, like there was a lot of stakes there. He basically pointed out that like, I am keeping everything together. Everything is going, any of these things that branch off. No, there's another version of me out there that is far worse than anybody could ever imagine. I beat that version, trapped them away, and you're lucky right now. And I'm just keeping things in order. But if I'm gone and you kill me, this just opens Pandora's box essentially. And Loki was like, all right, damn, we came here to kill him. But hold on, he's right. And Sylvie was just basically like, nope, and kills him anyways.
Fuck this dude.
Yeah. So she kills him. And now everything is just, everybody pointed towards Spider-Man maybe being, oh, that Spider-Man got the multiverse start. No, Loki is the reason why the multiverse saga is taking off, because they just unlocked the box and it's out and here we go.
I figured that's why Spider-Man was able to happen, because they did that.
Yeah, that's what Kevin Feige said too. I think someone asked him on like the red carpet, and he's like, the reason this is all possible because of what happened in Loki. And they don't flat out tell you this is the reason, but like when they say, hey, all of the timelines are merging and the multiverse is now in disarray, I mean, that kind of spells it out for you. And I kind of love that Marvel is now, pretty much since Endgame, they've been like, we're not going to spell everything out for you. You kind of need to be a smarter viewer to kind of get everything that's happening, which I like.
Yeah. Like, guys, at a certain degree, like, it's fun to figure out or just understand what's happening, because if you have it spelled out to you all the time, that takes away from what you're watching.
Well, there's different levels of enjoying these movies. And obviously I think we're on an extreme level, but and it's smart too, because if we have to talk about it, like that's what I have a friend who writes movies, not Marvel movies, but whenever we watch one of his movies, we'll then call him and be like, oh yeah. And we're discussing it. And he's like, that's all I want to hear is you guys are talking about it. Like, and that's what the people who make movies, they want you to discuss it. They want you to lay down and think about what you just watched and process it, because that's how they keep you around.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun. All right, shall we move on? We didn't mention Loki Alligator. He gave us that too, which
That's
is
right.
funny because usually there's always an alligator section at MegaCon with a real alligator. So obviously the year that came out, I always feel so bad for these little alligators. They have their mouths taped up and they're little baby gators. But obviously we saw some Lokis. They don't do that at events everywhere else. No, I've seen that so many places.
Sounds like animal cruelty, but all right.
I've seen it at a beer fest too. And people come over and they're trying to create awareness for these like organizations to protect alligators. But yeah, it's just a little gate. Really? Okay. I have a picture at a beer fest.
I don't know if that's the right way to spread awareness.
Well, my son, so my mom had taken him somewhere and she told the lady to throw the gator back in the water. I was like, good for you, Logan. That is where the gator belongs. But there was a bunch of Lokis that year and variants. And of course, they were all taking pictures with the gator.
Oh, not
okay. So next.
I have to bring them up. We also had
Yes, we did.
Nice.
Yes.
It's such a cute little, the little frog Thor.
You can't mess with the frog of thunder, you know?
Our last, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I like that we got all those different versions, comic accurate suits to, all sorts of versions of Loki in that one. That was another thing that I really loved. But yeah, Black Widow. Let's roll into
our first movie.
Probably, this one's probably my least favorite Phase 4 movie. I'll spoil that right off the bat. And Dave Harbour really did get stuck in the suit and he had to call for help to get out. And that's the shot that made it into the movie. So that scene where he's stuck in the suit, that was real. And it was funny. It was great seeing him. So this movie suffers from the fact that it just came out too late. This movie was kind of like an afterthought, unfortunately, because had it come out around the time of Winter Soldier, then it would have made a lot more sense. And I think it would have been more well received, but it wasn't. It was just kind of like, okay, Natasha's dead. Here's a movie just to here's her movie. And
right. You guys wanted it. Here, we did it.
Like, imagine if this came out in between like Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah. Like that would have right there. Like that would have been great.
Like if it came out before Captain Marvel came out, like this movie would have made $1 billion probably.
Without a doubt.
It was a great movie.
It's
I loved it.
As bad. Like, again, this movie's not bad. It's just the reason why it didn't sit right is because it's just the wrong timing. And where it leaves off, William Hurt comes and shows up and they're talking about the Accords and things. And then, of course, we get introduced to Yelena. And then
who was amazing.
And then another aspect is Taskmaster was just kind of like a reduced to a dumb kind of villain in a way, but
he's got more story to tell. He's been in prison for years. He's not in the best of shape. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about David Harbour. I'm looking for the alligator picture.
No, Taskmaster. But yeah, Dave Harbour's going to come back. I'm sure we're going to have him come back, and I want to hear more about that time he fought Captain America allegedly. I feel like there's more story there, but yeah, what do you think, Sean?
Kind of in the middle of you two, I think. I liked the movie. I remember seeing it in theaters and being like, this movie was solid. And then coming out and seeing it's kind of most of my experiences with movies being like, man, I really like that. And everyone being like, that movie sucked. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess whatever. But the opening intro is like one of the coolest MCU openings, I think. It's so sick.
Oh,
so
that
cool with
slow
them as
rendition
kids and everything like that, and then like all of the like child trafficking stuff. The villain was kind of whatever, and the third act is kind of also whatever. But at the same time, it's not like a bad movie, and I really loved the family elements. Obviously, Yelena became a fan favorite after this, and even the after credit scene, I think, was the first time a movie directly connected to a TV show, which was cool.
Yeah,
and I mean that led to like probably my favorite moment in Hawkeye too. Was the conversation between Clint for sure. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was still a solid movie. And now we're getting, most of the cast in the Thunderbolts, and that should be a good time.
It paved the way. It did.
How good was that opening scene though? Was it
so sick?
It was Nirvana. Yeah.
And it was just Teen Spirit or whatever.
It was just like a slow rendition of it. Yeah. No, that's probably one of my favorite MCU openings, period. Just
real good.
The going through the flashbacks and with the music on top of it. Yeah. Easily one of the best MCU introductions anyways.
I feel like we already knew how strong Natasha was physically, and we had an idea mentally, but I felt like this movie really showed how emotionally and mentally strong she is and everything that she's overcome.
Yeah.
But there were parts I felt when I was watching this movie that I was like, well, this is a little, more sentimental than I would like. But then I had to remind myself, oh, she's dead. This is her send off. We're saying goodbye to her.
Yeah.
So then when I reminded myself of that, I was like, oh, and then she walks away in the short blonde hair, which is her, hair in Infinity War.
And the vest.
Yep.
And the vest. Yeah.
Got the vest.
So
We got the
So many pockets.
I really, really like this movie. I mean, okay, you guys don't understand how much girls love pockets because y'all just have these big old pockets in every outfit you have.
That's fair.
Funny, we
A
just
lot
had
of times when
I
they
just had
give
this
us
conversation with my wife and her friends like yesterday about how had these dresses on. They were trying on dresses because this cover band I just joined, we're doing like an emo prom. So like obviously everyone's dressing up for it. And they're like, oh yeah, the dress has pockets. And they were talking about like,
My
yeah, you guys
wedding
always
dress,
have pockets.
yeah.
Like
You guys
we
got
have
pockets and
things to
everything.
carry too. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, like I didn't say you didn't.
So the day I got married, people were like, "Oh, your wedding dress is so pretty." I'm like, "It has pockets," and I had pockets. Yeah.
All right, let's roll into What If. This one was inspired by the Twilight Zone, almost like Cautionary Tales. And then the very last episode was actually Chadwick Boseman's final performance as T'Challa, which was heartbreaking. That's the one where he's basically in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you get to see Thanos as kind of a good guy, which was pretty cool to see. But yeah, so this is an animated 9-episode series that was just different tales. So we had Doctor Strange. What if he got a hold of the Darkhold and really tried to save? Oh my God, I just blanked. Why did I blank?
Christine.
Yes. Why? I don't know what just happened.
I always forget her name. Just say
don't know
Rachel
why.
McAdams.
But then we get like Tony Stark. What if Killmonger and him kind of knew each other, and some other things.
That was an interesting one.
To be honest with you, this is my least favorite series that came out in Phase 4. The one I really enjoyed was the zombies. That was a great one. You get to see Ant-Man's head, Chadwick, like Black Panther's getting his leg cut off to feed zombie Wanda by Vision. So you get that kind of like, oh crap twist. And then Spider-Man's involved. Ant-Man grows big, or Wasp grows big and sacrifices herself. And then you have zombie Thanos come out at the end. So you're like, what the fuck? But
These are all other multiverses.
yeah, it's all other multiverses. But yeah, again, this was my least favorite. I just was like, meh. It was kind of meh. That's how I felt about it.
I feel the same. It was my least favorite, but I enjoyed it way more than I expected to.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is a cartoon. And this is also right around when I was starting Clone Wars, where I still wasn't giving animated shows the respect that they deserved. So it really took me by surprise how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the boat with MASH here, mostly just because I think it's hard for something like the MCU that's so connected to do anthology stuff, or I think they maybe had to play it safe, maybe for like what's to come and everything. But the whole premise of What If can be so crazy, and they kind of played it pretty safe.
Yeah.
I did love the Doctor Strange episode. I did love the zombies episode a lot. When the zombies episode ended, I was like, man, I would love a series of this. And then they announced
We're getting one.
I was like, fuck yes. I was like, this is what I wanted.
Surprise.
Which is really cool. I love that. And the finale was pretty cool, getting the Guardians of the Multiverse together and fighting, Infinity Ultron was pretty cool. I just like the ending was kind of a little anticlimactic, a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
And it would have been cool if they connected, kind of, if they put in like Multiverse of Madness, if that Sinister Strange we saw ended up being the Doctor Strange from What If, like that would have made it so much more impactful. People have been like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? But it is what it is. It's not like I hated it either. It was just like a lot of episodes were like really great, and the other episodes were like, yeah, I mean that was fine,
Yeah.
I almost felt like it was an experiment. Like, okay, obviously animation's cheaper and easy, and like let's gauge the audience response and then see. Because I'm curious to see now what they're going to do in season 2 after we saw Peggy Carter, come to life on the screen, kind of thing. Captain Carter. We've seen Peggy Carter, very underrated. And anybody who hasn't watched that show, I highly recommend watching Agent Carter. But I will do anything for more of her. I love her. But yeah, I enjoyed it more than. But I do agree, it was still my least favorite series, hands down.
Agreed.
But
Well, let's move on
excited
to
see more.
Shang-Chi, our other movie. This movie, man, I'm gonna tell you straight up, like if Spider-Man and Wakanda Forever didn't release, actually I have this, I actually have Shang-Chi above Wakanda Forever. I'll be honest with you. This is my second favorite Phase 4 film. I loved this movie so damn much. So Wenwu was very difficult to write, and the actor they cast had never done an American film before. And then Aquafina,
Legend.
yeah, Aquafina and Simu Liu didn't know about the post-credit scene until the last day of shooting, which, if you remember, was, you know, Hulk shows up and Wong and everybody, and they're talking about the 10 rings, and you're like, oh, this has a bigger meaning to it. But yeah, dude, this movie was, you got a lot. The colors were fantastic. You kind of got that old school, you know, fighting. Yeah, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon fighting.
It was
aesthetics.
Ballet. I mean, it was gorgeous.
And, you know, you got dragons. I don't know. I thought it was just amazing. Simu Liu, the bus fight sequence is one of my favorite fight sequences in Phase 4 in almost all of the MCU period. And I
think that's fair.
Yeah, he's great too. He is great. And then, of course, you got Wong doing the Fight Club with, you know,
Abomination.
Yeah. So this, I could gush. I saw this in 4DX, and it was like a nonstop roller coaster ride. I don't know why. I was like, oh wow, I was just bumping all around and just wasn't ready.
I saw Black Widow. I wonder if that makes it so you like it more because you feel more involved in the story.
Maybe.
I will say for like the first 2/3, it could be kind of distracting because you're trying to pay attention and you're like this.
You're just like it's like shaking baby syndrome.
When the dragon shit came in, that was sick. I was like, I am riding this dragon right now.
I spilled beer all over myself during Black Widow because I wasn't expecting it before the movie even started. And just like, I'm like, what the hell?
That was Sam. She was just like sitting nonchalantly. And then when the trailers started, they do it during the trailers. Yeah. She was like, oh my God, what the fuck?
Right. I wasn't mentally ready.
I will say too, this also brought back a certain character into the MCU. I'm an actor.
Trevor Slattery.
Yes, he comes back, and he was actually a prisoner of Wenwu, who is the actual Mandarin. It comes to find out, and they've been doing this for a long time. And I thought that was a pretty cool, where Wenwu was basically like, "Yeah, you guys were idiots. All of that. They're not the real Mandarin. I'm the real Mandarin." And all of this, the backstory behind that, I really like that. And Wenwu was pretty great villain, and the fight sequence there between him and Shang-Chi were killer. Yeah,
he was an amazing villain because he wasn't just a villain. He was just more complex than I feel like we usually get.
Yes. Yeah. And anyone complaining about the Mandarin, go watch All Hail the King. You can find it. I think it's on Disney Plus now.
Yeah,
or you can find out, or you can Google it. But that explains that Trevor Slattery wasn't the real Mandarin. So the MCU corrected the wrongs years ago. I think it was like a Thor 2 one shot when they used to do one shots for basically like extended after credit scenes. There was one with like Coulson going to New Mexico, which set up the events of Thor and stuff like that too. So yeah,
it was back when like webisodes were happening. Cause I remember watching them on like abc.com.
Holy shit.
Because it was an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was on there. And then they did a whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like web series or something. But yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this movie rocks. I had pretty high expectations going into it just because the buzz off it was really high. And I was like, whoa, the movie kind of blew me away, honestly. Yeah. Like they started Phase 4 pretty strong.
Yeah, they did. No. And I can't wait to see how he plays in with the rest of the Avengers when they all get together. Like definitely going to be on the new Avengers
Ant-Man
team
together. That's if Ant-Man survives, but
they're on the West Coast. They're on the West Coast together.
They're like the only two on the West Coast.
But I feel like they're the two funniest
She-Hulk
now.
Too.
Oh, that's right. She-Hulk. Yes. My girl. Anyways, let's this next movie was also not as well received, very divisive amongst the fan base. We have Eternals. So
they're haters.
At Comic-Con, Angelina Jolie went up to Lauren Ridloff, aka Makari, and said that she loves her on The Walking Dead. And Jolie actually reached out to Marvel about being in the movie originally. And then originally Druig and Makari weren't going to have much of a relationship at all, but the chemistry between the two actors really changed that on set. And then also the writers started writing when Infinity War and Endgame were about to be out. So they had to have the movie spoiled for them in order to write this, which I guess makes sense. Yeah.
But as a fan, that would probably be like,
yeah. But at the same time, like, okay, so I didn't hate this movie, but I didn't love it. It's just kind of mid, in my opinion. Like,
there was just too many people to introduce.
It was way longer than it probably should have been. And it was just kind of like, okay, we got introduced to all these cool characters, Gemma Chan, everybody. And so, yeah, great. It was cool. I
think it had way too much to do.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have been better as a series and like introduce each character in an episode or something?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean,
people still would have complained though.
Yeah.
You're gonna get, people are going to complain regardless.
It's a unique group of superheroes to bring in. And I mean, like, they've been around for decades, but I really liked it. I had started reading the comics shortly before. I read I think it was the Neil Gaiman run from a few years ago, which multiple people recommended. And then I started reading the new one, which had already gender switched, like Makari. And there was another one. So they had already started making it, for the MCU, basically. That's how I always perceive it. All of a sudden, these characters start to look like they're actors. But having a background of these characters and seeing what they're trying to do, I feel like made me like it more. And then people are like, well, what are they going to do with this? And everything in the Marvel we've learned is a slow burn. Like, even Shang-Chi, seeing Wong with Abomination, and we're all like, why doesn't Hulk look like Smart Hulk? Why does he look like human? Well, all that was answered, 11 months later in She-Hulk?
Yeah. Literally.
So we just have to wait. We just, they're going to explain why there's a giant celestial in the water.
Oh my God. Yeah. We got the celestial hanging out. We got a celestial appearing in the sky. Like, these poor people in this universe.
Well, one thing I will say, though, that has been a little frustrating with this phase is we have no idea when exactly things are going on. And we have to figure that out. Like, okay, what month is this? Okay, well, why is
September?
Why is
we're getting
Christmas,
a book.
But the Christmas tree is still up in Spider-Man. So that must have been before Hawkeye. And like, we're having to figure these timeline things out.
Spider-Man No Way Home kind of went through a lot of time too. It went from fall into winter and stuff. So it is very hard to kind of grasp that. It's almost like watching Star Wars, because everything Star Wars releases is in a different time period, and you're like, oh yeah, this is between this and this. Right. And you kind of have to remind yourself while you're watching. But this is like trying to figure out where in the span of the last few years is this within each other.
Like, also,
it is very hard. Yeah.
They didn't bother. I mean, I guess they kind of explained it, but yeah, they were just kind of chilling during the whole Thanos debacle. So
they couldn't interfere, Mash. There was no deviance.
But Thanos is technically a deviant.
Yeah.
Well, he's an Eternal with a deviant gene.
Yes, because he's the child of Eternals.
Yeah. Which, sentient weird robots creating life is weird.
Yeah.
But,
Well, and Earth is a machine. I wonder if they're going to play into any of that. So, because in the comics, the Earth is a machine. And then when an Eternal dies, they are rebooted by taking the life of a human.
Yeah, we'll see. That's the one thing I liked about this movie, is that I think the ramifications cosmically it set up are really cool. Because obviously, the Celestials are massive beings that we're going to have to deal with at some point. And I think it might even be kind of post Secret Wars. I think that might maybe that's the thing after. A lot of people, I know there's that big comic event where it's X-Men Avengers Eternals, and they think they might be sort of adapting things of that moving forward past Secret Wars, which could be very interesting. I mean, we have all these fucking characters now.
That's true. Yeah,
there's so no bounds what they can do with it.
Well, then you got to do the Guardians rides. There's a Celestial in there that almost wiped out Earth. Thank God the Guardians fixed it and we helped.
Yeah, and we see a few Celestials in that one scene in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, that's true. We do.
Yeah, just chilling.
Chilling.
Waiting for the orgy.
But yeah, this movie was it was mid, in my opinion. It was fine. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Didn't love it.
It's like a mid to low level MCU movie for me too, but I still really liked it. I liked the chances it took.
It was a beautiful movie.
You get a
visually
Emmy winning or an Oscar winning director to come in and do something different.
Yeah.
Definitely did. It looked gorgeous.
Yeah, the movie is so visual. And then Makari's, when she's using her speed, that was a beautiful,
so sick,
beautiful sequence. Take notes. Flash.
Way better than CW. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was but this next one also, I feel like, kind of is an underrated TV show, because I enjoyed this one so much, and it's Hawkeye. And I know it had some
fun to watch at Christmas.
Yeah.
This is a fun Christmas show.
in this series, it introduced us to like Echo and Kingpin's back and everything. So Alaka Cox, excuse me, who plays Echo, is actually a Native American and she's deaf, just like her character Maya Lopez. But unlike the comic book version, Cox also happens to be an amputee. And rather than potentially complex measures to conceal this, the showrunners instead fully incorporated this detail into her character. And then her cousin played the younger version of her, which is pretty cool. And then Jeremy and Haley actually learned ASL so that way they can talk with her in this, which again, I think it's pretty cool. But
I think it's good that Hawkeye knows that anyways.
well, I mean, because they played into it, it was great. Yeah. I mean, he was partially deaf, which another thing that we always think about is all the explosions and loud noises through battles. You're like, how are these characters still like perfect? But as you see in this, he lost hearing. And there's that heartbreaking scene where he couldn't hear his son on the phone. And so Haley Steinfeld's having to pretty much translate for him. And it's just like, dude,
Beautiful.
like Clint has given a lot. So much, and people don't really recognize that, but I like this show a lot. Yelena comes
I think
back.
that was a lot of people giving Hawkeye some props for once from that show, regardless if people kind of felt uneven about it at the end. I think it finally, because I didn't realize how much Hawkeye hate there was until the show was about to come out.
I didn't either at all.
I knew about
And
it.
I was like, what? Why does everyone hate Hawkeye? I was like, why?
I feel like there's some comic book runs where he's a little bit of a tool. Like he'll be like, Wolverine, you don't need to have another beer. Old Man Hawkeye, I love, but yeah, here's your Tim cameo. Tim's not a Hawkeye fan, and he's also not a Vincent DiForino fan. So we should have had him on here to talk about Hawkeye. Yeah, I love when the Tim cameos are negative. It's always funny. But no, yeah, I feel like he finally got a little bit of the respect he deserved. And I loved that they told us stuff about his wife, because it never made sense to me that she was just a regular civilian. Like,
Yeah.
You need somebody who truly understands, okay, you're going out and risking your life. My kids might not have a father. You know, you need somebody who truly gets that.
True. And that Age of Ultron, when they bring him back to his house, it's a great scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And now it's even funnier. She's an agent. She was an agent.
Yeah. Tony knew, that smart motherfucker. And this series pretty much directly adapted the Matt Fraction run, which is a great run if you've never read it. It's fantastic. They've been doing this really cool thing now where when a show comes out and it's based off a certain comic or something, they'll release a nice omnibus of the whole run. And they did that with Hawkeye. I actually bought like the first 2 trades, and then they released a collected omnibus with the whole run in it. And I was like, fuck. So I ended up buying the omnibus. I did a nice little giveaway to give away the first 2 volumes. I did the same thing with Moon Knight. I bought like the first volume of the Lemire run, and the first volume of, there's this band called Say Anything, and the singer Max Bemis wrote an actual Moon Knight run too, because he has some sort of mental kind of disorder, kind of, I don't know if it's
I can't remember what it was. Yeah.
Or if it's like bipolar or something, but he has a certain similar thing. So him writing a Moon Knight comic, I was like, this is awesome.
That's a great perspective. Yeah. Actually, that's our next show.
I picked it up and I saw Bemis, and I was like, no way is it the singer of Say Anything? And I looked it up, and it was, and I was like, holy shit, what? So cool. It's like Gerard Way, writing,
doing Umbrella Academy,
Doom Patrol, and creating Umbrella Academy. I was like, man,
well, wasn't there? Collide. I think it was Elliot from ET wrote a comic book run. I'll have to look into that. There was one I was reading one time, and I was like, wait, I know this name, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh shit, he wrote
it like is a funny seeing
comic or something.
People,
I guess if you're famous, you just do whatever you want.
Well, you got the ends, right?
True.
Connections. But
I do have a CM Punk. CM Punk wrote a Drax run, and I have like the first issue of that too.
I didn't know that. Right?
Yeah.
The one thing that I'll say about Hawkeye is that I think the reason why it didn't land too well with people is the ending was kind of rushed. The finale is a bit rushed.
Yes.
Kingpin shows up, and then everything kind of gets wrapped up there at the end, but it felt rushed, which I understand. That kind of goes to the 6 episodes is too short. The 12 episodes is too long. Where's the sweet spots, which maybe we'll start seeing some of that, because a lot of these shows suffer from a rushed ending because they slow burn. They're like, oh shit, we got to finish this season. And then boom. So, yeah, let's, Moon Knight.
There's going to Moon Knight. So take us away, Lauren. What are some fun facts about Moon Knight as we talk about that?
So Moon Knight, we actually had some good fun facts that we learned when we actually interviewed the assistant director about 9 months ago. So that was amazing. So Oscar Isaac's brother actually stood in for some of the scenes. And then one of the fun facts I found really interesting, because we asked her, was it Haley?
Hyatt. Yes.
So she told us, because I asked, how does he do these different personalities? Does he do them one at a time? Does he do them, jump in this spot, jump in that spot? And she said at first he was doing them separate. And then as time evolved and he got used to these different personalities, he was able to switch back and forth quicker. So I thought that was really cool. I loved this show. I feel like this show does get a little bit of hate. I just thought it was so much fun. I know I've said this on here before, but to just be as clueless as the characters in the first few episodes, yes. I loved it. I thought it was amazing because it was, we felt what he was feeling. We were confused. And then just to see how they just everything progressed, and it progressed beautifully. And I thought Ethan Hawke was a great villain. I loved the ending. I can't wait to get more Jake Lockley. He better come back. I thought this was great. This was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I guess some like OG Moon Knight fans were really upset about it, I guess.
I know
this was based on like newer Moon Knight runs. Like this pretty much adapted the Jeff Lemire run pretty closely. From what I've read that whole run, and a lot of it is kind of mirrors what happened in different ways. It's kind of like that Asylum episode is pretty much like the whole run. So it's just a lot, like less of it, but Oscar Isaac is just like, what a get for Marvel. And I was kind of surprised he was doing it too, because I know he wasn't a big fan of like IP stuff after the whole Star Wars thing.
Oh yeah. Star Wars left a bad taste in his mouth.
Yeah. So to see him come back, and I know he was like an executive producer on the show and everything like that, which is kind of a normal thing now with the big stars being executive producers of the shows or movies or anything like that, which is really cool to give them that kind of power and say within it. And that penultimate episode was probably one of my favorite episodes of TV in recent years, let alone Marvel TV. It was just so powerful. And weird metalcore fun fact, the actor that played the mom of Oscar Isaac is actually married to the guitar player of Stick to Your Guns.
Hey,
no kidding. Cool. Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's
which
rad.
is pretty cool.
That's awesome. I love that band so much.
She was a great actress in that. I mean, because she had to play some terrible scenes. I mean, that's got to be hard to pretend to treat a child like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I echo a lot of your sentiments, Lauren. I mean, even Layla, her moment at the end was super fucking dope and badass, and can't wait to see more of her. Hopefully she comes back and plays a big part into whatever Moon Knight's future was. And the thing that was like really cool about this show, it was pretty much secluded from the rest of the MCU. There was like very subtle nods. Like they talk about the ancestral plane in one line of dialogue, and then they show the one like the GPR or whatever, the global whatever that was set up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. You see it on like a bus, but really there's no MCU tie-ins or nods really at all, which is I guess you could see it as a plus or a minus, but I thought it was cool that we just like really got to, because a lot of these shows are meant to just introduce us to these new characters. It's like this has been, this is the new phase one all over again. We're just getting introduced to all these people and all these new characters, all these new heroes, all these new villains, and they're all going to play a much bigger role and for what's to come.
Yeah.
Right. We're getting origin stories. But yeah, the Layla thing, that was emotional too. And when the little girl was like, "Are you an Egyptian superhero?" Like that hit me in the heart, man. That was beautiful. And that was such a good like representation of why representation matters. Like, because for me, I'm just thinking, having daughters and being a girl, it's like, yes, this was awesome. And I didn't even put in the Egyptian thing. And this little girl was like, "Are you an Egyptian?" Like, that was just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And I liked it. I did. And I'm interested to see how they tie it back into the larger MCU and then get him kind of involved. And
Midnight Suns.
Yes.
Midnight
yes.
Suns.
So we're going to roll into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. That was the next movie to come out, which the Illuminati actors were never all together at the same time. So the scenes had to be pieced together. And then America Chavez, played by Xochitl Gomez, learned to drive on set, and she got to drive the producer's vintage red convertible. Yeah. So
It was a
she
Fan
was like,
X, fun fact, because we saw her at Fan X.
yeah, I was going to say she was like 13 or something when this movie started being produced. And then she's what, like 16. So it took a few years for this movie to go through production and all of that stuff. And this movie, there were a lot of expectations going into it, right? Sam Raimi's back.
We're coming off Spider-Man too. So this is the first movie since Spidey.
You left Spider-Man out of the release date. What are you doing?
And that's my favorite movie.
Well, all right. The next movie wasn't. It was actually Spider-Man, just an FYI.
Which came before Moon Knight.
Knight, actually. And that Spider-Man, I think we can all say that there was so much. What isn't there to love about Spider-Man? I mean, you got Tobey Maguire,
you know why?
Andrew Garfield back, all that.
I went through Disney Plus and got the order of the movies. That's why. Damn you, Disney Plus. Damn you, Sony. Yeah.
For shame. So yeah, you're probably sitting there like, where the hell is Spider-Man? Well, don't worry, J. Jonah Jameson. We got Spider-Man. Let's talk about Spider-Man real quick. No Way Home. This movie had some expectations. You knew it. There was
and it met every single one.
And it
exceeded them.
It exceeded. Yes. You knew that the villains were coming back. We were getting Doc Ock. We were getting Green Goblin. We were getting Electro.
Daredevil.
We were getting everything, and there was leaks galore, and then the actors had to pretend like, no, I'm not in this movie. Andrew Garfield still
not the werewolf.
He wasn't in this movie. So
but it's still, even though you had heard all these spoilers, it still hit. The second I saw that stick hit the floor, I yelled because I knew.
Well, this was like the most emotional for me personally, because Peter Parker, man, he's just a kid. We forget he's just a kid, and they're trying to go to college. And now everybody knows that he's Spider-Man and he's going to go to jail, go all this stuff. And so he was like, hey, I just want people to not remember I'm Spider-Man except for the people that I love. Totally understandable. And Doctor Strange at first was very like annoyed with him. But I think obviously by the end, he kind of sees, because what happens is he tries to save the villains. Again, they're all going to go back and die. I want to save them. And that, of course, chaos ensues. And some of the most emotional moments were Andrew Garfield walking through after what Andrew Garfield went through his Spider-Man movies. And then
when he saved MJ. Oh my gosh.
And then
or his MJ, yeah.
Aunt May died, and the fight sequence between our Peter and Green Goblin was visceral, like heavy hitting,
brutal
power bombs through floors. Like it was a brutal fight, and it gave us one of the best, in my opinion, Spidey sense scenes that we've ever gotten.
Ooh, that was so good.
Yeah, his Spidey senses were going crazy, and then he was able to pinpoint exactly what it was. And God, and at the end of the movie, nobody remembers who he is, and now he's got no family and no friends. And this movie is so just emotional, man. It's so emotional.
This was the movie that my daughter looks at me and she's like, are you crying? This is my 10-year-old. She's just recently getting to go to the movies.
Yes.
And I pick and choose which ones. The older one understood.
I was the second half of the whole movie.
I did not bring her to Wakanda Forever. I'm like, you're not coming to that one. Nope, you're staying home.
Well, even just rewatching.
That one was almost worse.
Yeah. I mean, oh God. But even like almost rewatching, it's just like, damn.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing I love about the MCU is when they get emotional, they do it very well. Because I still can't go through Endgame without crying. Every time Tony Stark dies, I'm done, dude. The portals start opening up and I'm like, I've done so many times, I've turned it off. I'm like, don't feel like crying today? Just going to stop it here. I know what happens. I'm good.
But all the Chadwick Boseman scenes hit harder now, too. It's just as soon as he comes out.
He's the first one to walk through the portal.
On your left.
Like, come on, man. It's crazy. And they obviously did not plan that. Like,
no.
It's just kind of like a happy coincidence there. But yeah, I do. And the thing I love about this movie, too, about Spider-Man No Way Home, is that even though there's all this crazy multiverse stuff, you know, Tobey Maguire coming back, Andrew Garfield coming back, Alfred Molina coming back, Willem Dafoe coming back, Jamie Foxx coming back, like it. even at the core of this movie, it's Tom Holland's movie, and that's what makes it a great movie. All the fan service stuff is just icing on the cake.
And it doesn't detract from the fact that it is still his movie. Like, he's still navigating everything and he's figuring it out. He has help, sure. Mm-hmm. And they add to it, especially in the final fight. But at the core of this movie, it's about his decisions, his choices, him learning that he has to give up certain. Exactly. And it was just sad because then, like, Doctor Strange kind of views him at the end. You know, you can tell he just like, man, I was wrong about this kid. I was kind of a dick. And he just the rage that Tom portrays when he's fighting Green Goblin at the end, and just having to give up the girl he's in love with, his best friend, and everybody, and to go back into the coffee shop, and he wants to tell them who he is, but then decides no.
Or he sees her boo-boo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, it holds. I could watch that movie and it would still hit like the second I saw it in theaters, without a doubt.
Easily. I saw it twice opening weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. God. So before we actually do move on to Doctor Strange, though. So before we go into Doctor Strange for real this time, let's go ahead. We're going to wrap up this episode here today. This is going to be a 2-part episode because, man, there's just so much to talk about. So, Sean, before we wrap up, let people know where they can find you. Give them a little bit about your show.
Yes. So Metalcore Nerds is a show where I have on people from the music community, or sometimes the podcast community. As Mash mentioned before, he was on a full summer with me last summer, and he was just on again recently to talk about most anticipated TV shows. But usually I bring on people from bands and everything like that when they're promoting a tour, records, and instead of them talking about their bands like they usually do on every other podcast, they talk about pop culture. So you get to see their insight and what they love. And it's very topical on what is going on. That's usually what the main topic is. First, we start off with nerd news, much like this show does. We do a few topics each week, and then we go into a now watching section. Again, it's very similar to what this show does, and we dive deep into what we've been watching in the past week, and then we go into our main topic. Right now, it's all of The Last of Us all the time is what's going on in the show currently, which I am not mad about because I fucking love that show.
So good.
But you can find the show every Monday. It premieres on Adobe Howl, which you can find at adobe.com or download the Adobe app. But if you can't catch it there, it goes right up on every podcasting platform right after that. You can go to MetalcoreNerds.com. You can find our merch there, all of our links there in one easy place, or just on any podcast platform, just search Metalcore Nerds. Easy to find.
Easy stuff. So yeah, go ahead, as always, subscribe, drop a 5-star review, all that good stuff. And we'll be back next week to wrap up our phase 4 discussion and roll into kind of some quick phase 5 predictions. So I appreciate you guys.